Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in just 1 minute. Thanks for being with us. All right, everyone. I do want to get started because I want to be mindful of everyone's times. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the time. As a reminder, these Lunchtime Learning 15-minute webinars are the first Thursday of every month at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you keep up with your emails on it so you are aware of them. You can register right on Zoom. We're so happy to have you here. I also want to let you know that I will include my email address at the end. If there are any specific topics that are coming up a lot for you, please, please, please email me. Let me know what topics are coming up. And if I haven't covered them already, I will absolutely add them into the lineup to cover. Today, though, we're going to focus on learning and development at work. As a corporate trainer, I talk about learning and development in the workplace a lot, and I realized a lot of people don't necessarily talk about learning and development at work. So I want to talk about the importance of it and what we can do even today to help with learning and development at work. Before we get started, again, my name is Mary Ellen Dance. I am a licensed mental health counselor by trade, but I am the director of corporate training here at ENI, which is an employee assistance program. So let's get started about learning and development. So a study by the Brandon Hall Group found that companies that invest in employee training and development generate 26% more revenue per employee. That's a big number. That is a big number. And when I am talking about training here, I am not just talking about job training. Obviously, we need to make sure that we are providing our employees with the appropriate job training in order to do their specific role effectively. However, what I'm talking about with learning and development is extra training. Let's find an extra skill. Let's work on soft skills. Let's work on interpersonal skills. Let's work on mental health in the workplace. Things like that. Extra skills that help a person be better at their job, even if those skills aren't specifically related to their role. A study by IBM, a recent study by IBM, found that organizations with a strong learning culture are 58% more likely to meet organizational goals. And they have a 30 to 50% higher employee engagement rates. That's huge. Again, these numbers are really big. So, what all of these numbers and all of these studies are telling us is that it is actually dangerous to not invest time, money, energy in learning and development at work. It can be a matter of really great, productive employees and a disengaged workforce. So, it's really important to focus on this and focus on creating a learning culture, which we will talk about in a minute. I do want to talk about leadership training in particular. So, most of the time, people become leaders because they are good at their job. Being good at their job doesn't necessarily mean you'll be a good leader. And what happens a lot of the time in companies, because of time constraints or budget constraints or whatever it may be, is people are good at their jobs, become leaders, and then never get any leadership training. 75% of employees who leave jobs leave because of their leader, not because of their job. That is a huge number, and that is a really scary number. And it's not to say that we have bad leaders. It's to say that we have leaders who need more education and training. This graph is really interesting on the screen. It shows that the average age of 42 is when people begin leadership development training, about 10 years after they begin supervising people. So the average age that people begin supervising people is 32, but the average age they get leadership development training is 42. So they've already been supervising people for 10 years. Hopefully, we are seeing through some of these statistics why I'm talking about this today and why it is so important. So, as I've already mentioned, there are tremendous benefits of employee training. So, I am talking about learning and development both in employees and in leadership development, just kind of as an overall umbrella of learning and development. Companies with strong leadership development programs are 1.5 times more likely to be high performing organizations. Leadership development programs increases employee retention by 47%. Employees feel valued when they have opportunities for growth and development, leading to employee retention, leading to higher levels of engagement at work, leading to a more positive workplace culture. So, as we can see, there are significant costs associated with not investing time into learning and development. So, preparing for today, I did a little bit of research on what organizational needs are the top here. And this was so fascinating to me. So fascinating to me because can any of us see what these things have in common? All of these things fall kind of under umbrellas of self-awareness, emotional intelligence, interpersonal skills. None of these top needs are related to tactile skills. And I'm not saying that we don't need those tactile skills. We don't need those skills specific to our job roles and functions. We obviously do need that. But what the research is saying is that we're getting that and we're not getting these things. And businesses go through big changes on average about every 2 years, excuse me. And so change management is a huge learning and development need, huge because businesses are always going through changes. Communication, conflict resolution skills, teamwork skills, all interpersonal. Emotional intelligence, critical thinking skills, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Again, I hope that we can see from this list of the top organizational needs where we're strong, but also where we're lacking and where we need to build. And I think one thing that happens is because these things on the slide are not specifically related to job roles and functions, it's easy to put them aside. It's easy to put them aside. But as we saw from the last slide on benefits, when we put these things aside, we don't have employee retention, we don't have employee engagement, which loses productivity, loses employee performance, which decreases our bottom line. So it's important that we stop putting these things on the back burner because they are affecting our company's bottom lines. So there's a few things that we can do as organizations. There's many things that we can do as organizations, but a few things that we can, start today. We have to assess the needs and the gaps. We can assume all day what people need. Some people may come and tell us what they need or what they're wanting to learn more of. But really, the best way to do it is assess the needs and the gaps. Send surveys. Send surveys to people asking what they're interested in, where they think their strengths of the organization are, the areas of improvement of the organization. If everyone is saying that an area of improvement is conflict resolution between employees, that's going to give us a sign of what type of learning and development we need to focus on. It's also important to do performance evaluations. It is amazing the amount of organizations that do not have a process in place for formal yearly, semi-yearly performance evaluations. Performance evaluations also need to make sure that they include skills specifically related to our job functions, but also those interpersonal skills. How do we work on a team? How are we communicating with the team? Things like that. That's going to give us a good indicator what our workforce needs. Again, we can design tailored leadership development programs, leadership development separate from employee learning and development is really important. We can't just do one or the other. We really need to do both in tandem. So, leadership development programs focusing on communication, strategic thinking, positive culture, emotional intelligence are wildly important. And part of the reason they're wildly important is because it's a trickle down effect. If leadership isn't feeling great, if leadership isn't communicating well, then everyone below them isn't going to feel great or communicate well. As we mentioned with a statistic a few minutes ago, 75% of people leave their jobs because of their leaders. And we need to equip leaders with this knowledge. We need to equip leaders with the skills to retain employees. There's also another thing that we can do is there's so many ways to offer learning and development at work. So a lot of organizations offer some financial benefits for continuing education credits. Check with your organization to see if your organization offers that. Find continuing education credits that interest you. If you are in a leadership role, encourage people who report to you to find things that they like. Did you see a course that you want to take that is interesting to you? Did you see it on LinkedIn or a friend told you about it or whatever? Encourage people to do learning and development on their own, to follow through with learning and development on their own. Another thing that we can do is obviously bring learning and development to them. Do a monthly learning and development training session and pick the topics on the monthly training session based off of the assessments that have done. Having scheduled trainings is very important for a few reasons. One of the reasons is it's telling your employees that you care about them. It's telling your employees that you care about their learning and development. So you're scheduling these things out, you're planning for these things, you're taking their needs, their learning and development needs into consideration. Mentoring programs are also huge. Mentoring programs for anyone can be beneficial, but specifically for people who are new leaders, being able to mentor new leaders, or if someone gets a promotion, having someone mentor them can be huge. Hopefully, a lot of these things we are already doing in our workplace. However, I'm sure we're not doing all of them because no workplace is perfect. And in addition to that, it's important that we do these consistently, that we're doing performance evaluations consistently, training consistently, mentoring consistently. That is the biggest thing that I see. I see companies bring in, again, I'm a corporate trainer. So I see companies bring me in when things are really, really bad, which is great. But in order to keep things from getting really, really bad, let's have some consistency prior to that. There's some resources too. So I work at ENI. Our EAP is called Next Gen EAP. We partner with Mineral. On Mineral, there are thousands and thousands of resources, thousands and thousands of self-guided training, soft skills, interpersonal skills, compliance trainings, all sorts of things. It's really wonderful. There's also often, I know we have a lot of HR professionals on the call here. There's also local SHRM chapters often provide a lot of trainings, provide a lot of resources for training, provide a lot of information about training, right? This person's coming to town, this is coming up, here's a free webinar, here's a free workshop. Those are great things to keep our eyes out for that we can disperse to our employees too. So I want to thank everyone for being here. Obviously, I am a corporate trainer, so I feel very, very strongly about this, but I really appreciate everyone wanting to take learning and development seriously. As we can see, it is really important for the workforce, not only for the workforce to be productive, but also for the workforce to be happy. If you have any questions, my email is right here on this slide. Oh, whoops. Sorry about that. If you have any questions, my email is right here on this slide. Please feel free to email me. Like I said at the beginning, if there are any topics that are coming up for you consistently, please send me an email and I'll make sure that we do one of our monthly lunchtime learnings on that topic. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for all of the work that you do, and I hope to see you all next month.